Yata, for the sound of the bell. Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amoga Vairokana Maha Mudra Mani Padma Chavala Pravartaya.
Please stand for the three refuges, first in Sino-Korean and then in English. Before continuing, for those who are not familiar with the three refuges in Sino-Korean, if you look online or if you have the book, Moon Journeying Through Clouds, you'll find the words in Sino-Korean and English there. So we start again. Chi sim quinang ne si hong som se che mong cha Song Chu Il 지심 구념내 시방 삼세 제망 천내 성주 일체 성가야 And please repeat with me or after me. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
And realize the great way.
And realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
And transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
And transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please return now to your seat for meditation practice. I'm going to read the guided meditation that we did last week again, because upon exploring many other opportunities and alternatives, it seemed the best once again. I know some of you would rather do silent meditation, so please turn off your sound during this time. It's about 8 to 10 minutes. And then after the meditation, we'll get together for the Dharma talk. Okay. This, again, is from the book by Joanna Macy and Molly Brown called Coming Back to Life. So to start with any meditation, and at many times during your day, it's called compose yourself. You are a seeker. So bringing the hips just a little forward. This is micro moving them. Raise the sternum imperceptibly up. Imperceptibly lower shoulders and bring them imperceptibly back. Then bring your shoulder blades together. Very simple. It also has quite an effect. The body more aligned, the mind at ease. There's a sense of spaciousness with just our alignment. Please take 2 deep breaths, fully inhaling and fully exhaling. So as we start this meditation, our body-mind is as relaxed as possible. Closing your eyes, focus attention on your breathing. Don't try now to breathe any special way, slow or long. Just watch the breathing as it happens, in and out. Note the accompanying sensations at the nostril or upper lip, in the chest or abdomen. Stay passive and alert, like a cat by a mouse hole. As you watch the breath, note that it happens by itself, without your will, without your deciding each time to inhale or exhale. It's as though you're being breathed by life. Just as everyone in this room, in this city, on this planet now is being breathed by life, sustained in a vast, living, breathing web. Now visualize your breath as a stream or ribbon of air. See it flow up through your nose, down through your windpipe and into your lungs. Now, from your lungs, take it through your heart. Picture it flowing through your heart and out to reconnect with the larger web of life. Let the breath stream as it passes through you and through your heart appear as one loop within the vast web, connecting you with it. Now open your awareness to the suffering that is present in the world. For now, drop all defenses and open to your knowledge of that suffering. Let it come as concretely as you can. Images of your fellow beings in pain and need, in fear and isolation, in prisons, hospitals, tenements, refugee camps. No need to strain for these images. They are present to you by virtue of your interbeing. Relax and just let them surface. The vast and countless hardships of our fellow humans and of our animal brothers and sisters as well, as they swim the seas and fly the air of this planet. Now breathe in the pain like granules on the stream of air, up through your nose, down through your trachea, lungs, and heart, and out again into the world net. You are asked to do nothing for now, but let it pass through your heart. Be sure that stream flows through and out again. Don't hang on to the pain. Surrender it for now to the healing resources of life's vast web. With Shantideva, the Buddhist saint, we can say, "Let all sorrows ripen in me." We help them ripen by passing through our hearts, making good, rich compost out of all that grief, so we can learn from it, enhancing our larger collective knowing. If no images or feelings arise and there is only blankness, gray and numb, breathe that through also. That numbness is a very real part of our world. And if what surfaces is not the pain of other beings so much as your own personal suffering, breathe that through too. Your own anguish is an integral part of the grief of our world and arises with it. Should you feel an ache in the chest, a pressure in the rib cage as if the heart would break, that is all right. Your heart is not an object that can break. But if it were, they say, the heart that breaks open can hold the whole universe. Your heart is that large. Trust it. Keep breathing. This breathing through, once we learn it, becomes useful in daily life in the many situations that confront us with painful information. By breathing through the bad news rather than bracing ourselves against it, we can let it strengthen our sense of belonging in the larger web of being. It helps us remain alert and open, whether reading the news, receiving criticism, or simply being present to a person who is suffering. Let us together sit and breathe. Now, a little later in the service than we're used to, let us just do some simple stretching exercises before Maum reads to us the Dhammapada reading for this week. I forgot to do them earlier in the service. And I was reminded of that last week when I didn't do them at all. So let us go, moving our hands together, being fully present with these mindfulness movements that we're doing, breathing with them. And not touching our faces, but pulling our ears down 3 times. Remembering to breathe in, leaning forward, stretching the back, chin back, eyes back. And then coming up, stretching the arms, looking up. And to the side. Breathing in as the body comes open and exhaling as the body closes. Placing the fingers behind, inhaling and exhaling forward. Inhaling, keeping the spine straight, twist around, looking with the eyes as far back as you can. Slowly turning in the other direction. And back to center. Inhaling up and exhaling down. And again, inhaling up, exhaling down. Being present each micro moment of the way. And then the sideward bending, let the spine be straight and then bending to the side. And changing. Placing the fingers behind the head, bringing the elbows wide. Again, looking right up and back, fully present in this position, in each one. And up. And making bow. And stretch your legs if you need to. Jogging the knees up and down, relax. And then we would say, please come and sit around. And Mom will read to us from the 4th chapter of the Dhammapada, Flowers. Please bring your hands together, palm to palm, as you listen deeply.
Who shall conquer this world and the world of death with all its gods? Who shall discover the shining way of the law? You shall, even as the one who seeks flowers finds the most beautiful, the rarest. Understand that the body is merely the foam of a wave, the shadow of a shadow. Snap the flower arrows of desire, and then unseen escape the king of death and travel on.
On a little pilgrimage around the temple grounds this morning, crocus and snowdrops are in bloom. The sun makes jewels of drops of water in grass. Birds are singing, and robins have arrived. Welcome in from the 10 directions, all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Every day is a good day. Here we are, Mom and I, back for the 2nd week. Mom has learned how to do the technical things so our dear tech bodhisattvas can stay safe in their homes. Yeah. I like to just acknowledge all of you. As I did last week, I know where many of you would be sitting if you were here at the temple. Yeah. I miss you. And I know there are many others out there. After last week, we heard from people in many places. Sung Yu in the Upper Peninsula wrote, "Thank you for the words concerning breathing, the dependent arising it implies. All beings suffering, not separate from, but rather are these neural projections now present. With all of you in this Dharma." Sung Yu. Ashish did a FaceTime from India, showing me around the small house that his sister and her family live in, and who have him as their guest right now. Very small quarters, seem to be doing well. I talked last week to Haru, our dear Sangha member who lives in Blue Hills, Maine. She just come in from a cold day at the food bank because the old people in Blue Hill usually take care of the food bank. But since they need to be sequestered and away from contact, the young people in Blue Hill, including Haru, were taking over their food bank duties. Thanks so much, Blue Hill folks and Haru. Sandhu and Sanchian, Dale Joyner and his wife checked in with some financial support, and we're very grateful for that. Nan Bauer wrote to us from Peru. She's stuck there. She's a writer. She wrote us a beautiful account of how it all happened, that she and her husband Steve happened to be enjoying Peru at this moment. From Colorado, Jungsen wrote, she used to take care of the temple garden here. Kusa and Andrea, keep in touch from Colorado. Osek and Travis have been in daily contact from our Springwind farm in New York, countryside. Many Chicago folks have been in touch. Joanne Kelleher, our local member, sent a wonderful picture of the Prajna Dragon vote. I wonder if you saw it in our e-bulletin. If not, please sign up because there were also some pictures that folks sent. It makes us very happy to hear from all of you, and I hope that our efforts here are also helping you. I'd like to just do a little review from last week. Perhaps there are some new people. I told the Prajna Dragon boat story. And basically, it's that we're all in the same boat, but it does it so beautifully in terms of a mural on temple walls in Korea. And we see in the tumultuous sea a Prajna dragon boat with a head like a dragon's head and a tail like a dragon's tail, trying to make it through tumultuous seas. And everyone in the boat is trying to help in each their own way, bailing, rowing, meditating, chanting, reading scriptures, and in the waves, many bodhisattvas giving their support. So there was a little bit about more detail about the Prajna Dragon boat. And then I read to you a little bit from the Tathagata Garbha Sutra, which the Buddha was really emphasizing that everyone's got the Buddha nature and that everyone is in all of the scriptures and reading that we do from his teachings. So everyone's got it. So we're all in the same boat, and everyone has great capability. It's kind of beautiful. So I just like to review that. The story this week from our tradition is the story of the blind turtle. And some of you may have heard it because I used to tell it during the meditation course. And no, Mom, do you still tell the story about the blind turtle? She doesn't. So let me tell you about this story. It's not just from the Korean tradition. It is, the story itself comes from Indian tradition. And I think Asanga was the original storyteller. And the story goes, as told to me from Venerable Samu Sunam, my teacher, is that when young monks and when novice ones and nuns come in to the monastery, that each night after evening practice, one of the more senior monks takes them aside, usually in the temple courtyard, and gives them little lessons for the day, tells them stories from the tradition, and generally inspires them on their way with the Dharma. And one of the stories that's often told is the story of the blind turtle swimming in the ocean. And it is that turtle is swimming, not really knowing where it's going, cannot see. And it's searching in blindness for a log which has a hole in it so it can pull itself up and take rest. You can kind of see how it's a metaphor for us, that we are our version of swimming, looking for peace, for wisdom, for contentment. Yeah. So then, if the wise turtle finds this log and pulls itself up, some of you may know turtles really like to hang out on logs in the sun. If it finds it, the old monk says to the novices, it's very rare, very rare. It's in the wide oceans. It's rare that there'd even be a log with a hole in it, and then to be able to find it is another thing. And so he then says to the novices, it is also very rare that if you come to the Dharma, and this is such a wonderful opportunity for you to transform your life and be a light. So I think we can see how this applies in our lives generally, and maybe even in our days, where we're really looking for a little peace, a little quiet, a little light. Yeah. So that's the story of the blind turtle swimming in the ocean. And of course, we're all in it together. So the next part of my talk is to share something with you from Bhikkhu Bodhi. Bhikkhu Bodhi is a wonderful translator of Buddhist scriptures. And he, after doing a lot of scripture translation in Sri Lanka and being the head of the Buddhist Publication Society there, decided a few years ago that he'd done enough translation and he had to become more of an activist. And so he formed an organization called Buddhist Global Relief. And it raises funds by walks. So we go on walks each year to raise funds for causes around the world to provide education, nutrition for people in need. And he's very articulate. He's a wonderful person. We have walked with him here in Ann Arbor in the Global Relief Walks. It's Walk for the Hungry. And he's very, very articulate. He could come to the temple afterwards to give talks. And so I looked up Buddhist Global Relief, and there's a long piece of writing by him that I think would be worthy of your attention. I picked from it for this morning some parts that particularly resonated with me, and I hope they will with you. So he calls his article in the Buddhist Global Relief website, Responsibly Facing the Pandemic. So here are some parts. Not only does the virus bring illness, death, and economic hardship to many, but wherever it spreads, it sows the seeds of fear and discord. It is fomenting nationalism and racism and divides populations up on the basis of economic, social, and racial privilege. Yet, because no one is immune from the virus, not even those with the most sturdy social protections, the dangers it possesses to us personally and collectively should draw us all together in an unflinching effort to stop its spread. And he goes on a few paragraphs later. The unified effort needed to end the epidemic may have consequences more far-reaching than merely stopping the spread of the disease. The pain of the crisis might be seen more broadly as a tremendous opportunity, as a wake-up call for us to examine the values and the goals that drive us both individually and as a society. The values that dominate in our frenetic, market-based culture are the quest for wealth and power. But these must not be permitted to govern our response to the pandemic. The response called for, rather, must be grounded in a moral vision that gives primacy to people, a primacy that has to be extended universally. We must be able to see every person as a center of intrinsic dignity, to regard each human life as worthy of being cherished, helped, and protected. To respond in this way, we need to bring together in our own hearts two crucial qualities, he says: compassion and moral conviction, which should function in unison as spurs to responsible action. Both should be guided by wisdom. Wisdom teaches us that our lives are inseparably intertwined. We do not live caged within the confines of our skins, but breathe and move in an intricate net of relationships governed by mutual lines of influence. Most of these lines are invisible to us, but beneath the range of perception, our own thoughts, decisions, and actions are constantly exercising an impact on countless others, just as the thoughts and actions of others are having a subtle impact on us. Compassion is rooted in the recognition that all human beings share the same basic aspiration, the aspiration to be well, happy, and healthy, to be free from suffering and affliction. Under the critical conditions brought on by the virus, compassion must be extended universally. And then going on to not finishing all of the paragraphs, guided by wisdom, compassion generates a keen sense of moral responsibility. which operates on two fronts, in protecting ourselves and in protecting others. Almost finished. To act ethically, to be morally responsible, we must adhere rigorously to the guidelines proposed by health officials in relation to the ways we interact with others. There is, however, still another side to compassionate action called for in this time of crisis. This involves heeding the call to social justice. Even before the pandemic arrived, some 140 million people in this country were either poor or low income. That's 40% of the population. Some 30 million do not have any form of health coverage. Over 40 million are dependent on food stamps just to feed their families. Now that the virus has struck, the people being hit the hardest are low wages workers and the poor, those who are already struggling just to subsist from one day to the next. And finally, I will read from what Bhikkhu Bodhi says. In the long run, this epidemic may be teaching us a powerful lesson about the imperative of fundamental social transformation, pushing us to lay the foundations to a more equitable society and a more sustainable world. It is unconscionable that here in the most affluent nation on earth, the least among us languish in their time of urgent need. The time is ripe for us to see that everyone's basic human needs be met. So just making bow and leaving us with a moment of quiet to reflect on what particularly resonated from the Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi. And I wish we were together so I could hear what did resonate, because often when we're all at the morning service on Sunday, I hear from you. And hearing from you really helps me to harmonize and be able to respond with at least a modicum of wisdom or cheer or whatever. Maybe I'll hear from you. So the next part today is to look at some practices in these times. Let's see what time we have. I'll try not to take up too much more time. It's about 10:15 over here, 10:15 in this time zone. So the practices. Last week I mentioned altars, and in the broadest sense, everything can be an altar. Standing at a window, looking out. Being at the kitchen sink, washing dishes. Walking, and each moment of that. An altar where we may make bow, feel our deep humility and gratitude and sorrow and pain. This week, Taga from near Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, sent a picture, some of you may have seen it in the e-bulletin, of their television with me giving this talk, her husband, Kosea, sitting on a cushion watching, and then there was an empty cushion, which must have been hers. And as I looked under the screen, there was a moktak, like we have our moktaks. And, I was touched that they had a moktak in their house. And then as I looked beside the screen, there was a little table, and it was their altar, which had a Buddha and candles and a cloth, and I think beads coming down. And it felt like I was really touched that their screen room, maybe it's their living room and their sitting room, is also a place for their altar and for their spiritual practice. And I was thinking that all of you, if you don't have an altar, that you may be able to put one together for yourself. It could be very spontaneous. Yesterday, I was feeling particularly upset because I got some news that possibly one of our members might have the coronavirus. And so I was just going around, and all of a sudden I had carried the Parinirvana Buddha, the lying Buddha, and put it on a little table outside my room. So I began all of a sudden to make it into an altar. And I took some pictures of some of you. You've sent pictures over the years for greetings at New Year's, etc. And I just felt like I wanted to put them there. And I found a picture that somebody had made and put it there, and an old photograph of a woman practitioner who I admire. And it just felt good to make a little altar right there, even though, of course, at this temple we have altars in many places. But one just outside my door seemed to be really important for me then. And then put a little candle. It's in process. Usually we have some kind of picture of a Buddha or a statue of a Buddha. We usually have candles. We have a place to burn incense, a little container for water, which each day is replenished, maybe used in the garden or for plants in between. And then oftentimes on an altar we can put offerings. For instance, this morning I put some potatoes here from the kitchen because we received potatoes from Whole Foods. They were throwing them out, and so we're gratefully receiving them. This morning on my walk in the garden, I saw the beautiful crocuses are blooming, so I brought some back for this altar. And from last week, I kept the birds that I showed you. And there was this beautiful piece of fungus lying around the ground. And it just looked like sort of old stuff. But when I looked at it carefully, it was so beautiful. Even sort of the junk, the old stuff, has its great beauty. So on your altar, you can make it a beautiful opportunity from your heart to make it a focal point, which you can then take care of the people in your life, take care of what you think is really important right now. You can kneel down before it, you can do prostrations, and you can chant. And I found out that one of our residents, Johua, had made a little altar at her desk where she's working on her thesis, her dissertation, when she heard that our dear cat, Wadu, had died. So she lit a candle right there. Very touching. So I encourage you to, if you don't already have an altar, to perhaps make one. And then also, there's no reason to restrain yourself, because of course there could be altars in many places, and just by your very behavior can make any place a kind of altar. So that's the one thing. When I was feeling really upset yesterday morning, it was, I think, the most upset that I felt getting the news in sometimes is just like that. And so the next thing I began to do, and it's the next thing about practice, I began to spontaneously chant the 3 refuges in Pali. Somehow that version of the refuges gets to my stomach and my heart. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. And I just went around in my morning duties, making the altar. I did the sanitizing because that's my job in the morning, to go around to the doorknobs and the screens and the handles and the light switches all the time. Buddham saranam gacchami, washing dishes, Buddham saranam gacchami. Kind of, it's a great expression of my faith, my trust in the Buddha, in the teachings, in my own Buddha nature, in the teachings which are in me, and my interconnection with Sangha. So I'll encourage you, as Venerable Samu Sunam encouraged us many years ago, that we should go around chanting. And I must admit that I'm kind of resistant to that, doing it all the time. But I know over the years that I have done it when I have not felt well. Like when I was with my mom, when she was dying, I was doing Ma'um chanting all the time. And at other times when I have been bereft, I do go to chanting. And so some people do it all the time. And I like to encourage you, maybe you don't have to do one particular chant. There's one that really resonates with you. I talked about the Buddham Saranam Gacchami, and there is, of course, Ma'um chanting, which Ma'um means mind and heart. And it can be very calming, and many people really cherish that. And then the one I thought that to pick up, it just came to me this morning, because last night when I went to bed, I do this a lot, I say, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, compassionate beings out there, give me a hint about the talk tomorrow morning. I usually do that. And actually, if I just let it go, the next morning something comes. And what came to me was the light mantra. And the light mantra is the one that Ma'um chanted this morning at the end of the bell verses that she chanted aloud for us. And I was given this mantra many years ago by Venerable Samu Sunam to do 108 times a day. I think it might have been for 3 months, something like that. And so what I was to do it was with my beads, and my longer beads. These were the ones that just came to me this morning. But so with each bead, it would be, let's see, how does it go? Gosh. Om Amoga Vairochana Mahamudra Mane Padme Jvala Pravartaya Om Amoga Varochana Mahamudra Mane Padme Jvala Pravartaya Om Amoga Varochana Mahamudra Mane Padme Jvala Pravartaya and so on. And I started chanting it when I was out doing the rounds this morning, turning in all the directions. And as I was going about my duties in the Sangha house. And I found it very powerful just chanting and being an instrument of sound reverberation not only helps us, but that reverberation goes out, as Bhikkhu Bodhi was saying. Also, the meaning of the light mantra is for the transformation of ignorance in its many aspects, our own and the ignorance of all beings, the transformation of light, of darkness into light. Anyway, so would you pick a chant? I invite you to pick a chant. Maum or the light mantra. Again, we'll put these out for you to see. Jijang Posel, the Great Compassion Dharani, all of these are very good for ourselves and for all beings. So doing a little chanting. Okay, I see the time is almost all gone. So, in conclusion, I received this box in the mail yesterday, and it said, open immediately. So I did. And in it was some butter cup, they're little flowers, bulbs. And so I'm going to be going out today and planting them somewhere in the garden. And I think that going outside and being in the sunshine with keeping our distance from people is really important practice too. I'd like to also say that expressing gratitude, acknowledge gratitude for so many. In the 10 directions, there is so much that we have to be grateful for. Our doctors, our nurses, our healthcare workers who are on the front lines on our behalf. And for small things, people taking care, and for our own good health at the moment. So, dear friends, let us finally, do what we call a transference of merit, so that everything that we do each day in the Dharma, in service, with love, we dedicate to the welfare of all beings. So please repeat after me this quite traditional transference of merit verses. These transference of merit verses. Whatever merit I may have earned,
whatever merit I may have earned,
from my participation in this life and this service this morning,
from my participation in this life and this service this morning,
I offer for the relief of suffering,
I offer for the relief of suffering,
and peace and happiness of all beings,
and peace and happiness of all beings.
Maha Prajna Paramita.
Maha Prajna Paramita.
Maha Prajna Paramita.
Maha Prajna Paramita.
Namo Maha Prajna Paramita.
Namo Maha Prajna Paramita.
Bodhisvaha!
Bodhisvaha.
Making bow. Sorry to be a little behind time. Maum has a few announcements now, and then there's going to be a tea which you can join. I think she'll tell you about that. Okay, I'll turn the camera toward her.
Good morning, all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions. So nice to have you with us this morning. We at the temple are lining up some virtual offerings that I would like to tell you about this morning. So the first is we have a virtual tea with Tongsan and Kusa immediately following this service. And so you can join in for that chat. I believe I saw information going out in the live chat box, but let me read to you the link that you would go to if you want to join. So the address is meet.google.com/AKJ-OIRU-XMB. So please join into that virtual tea, which will last from 11:35 to noon today. Shortly after service, I will be posting a link for a special Dharma talk on self-compassion given by Kogi Jennifer Ratliff. And once you listen to this talk, if you are inspired to do so, you can then join a practice period, which will be offered on April 5th, 12th, 19th, and 26th. So if you are interested in that practice period after listening to the talk, please contact the temple and I will get you on the sign-up list so that you can receive a special link. Third event today after service, Recovery Dharma, which is now meeting virtually every Sunday. The link to that event is umish.zoom.us/J/ and then a series of numbers. The numbers are 5, 3, 5, 4, 2, 3, 1, 6, 2. All of this information was sent out in our e-bulletin and also posted on our website. So those are important sources of information for you to check on a regular basis to get details about what's going on at the temple. If you wish to receive the e-bulletin and are not yet receiving it, please just send your email to the temple and I will add your name to that list. I think those are the main announcements for today. We appreciate those of you who continue to donate to the temple in these trying times. If you wish to make a donation, you can either do so by using PayPal, by going to our website, there's a donate button, or at the end of our e-bulletin, a donate button. You can contact the temple for regular withdrawals if you wish, and you can always send a check from your bank. So thank you so much for your continued support of our Dharma activities. So with that, I turn things back over to Haji Sunam for closing.
Yeah. Good to see all of you coming in on the chat, and a really deep bow. Hope to hear from you. Okay. Maybe stay on the screen so we can see who's coming in on the chat. Bodhisvaha. Hey, Jungsen. I don't know if you're still there, but I'm glad you're enjoying the services.
Spencer's taking over.
This was a free session sponsored by. We
Oh.
thank you for playing fair.
Just hit the X.
Okay.
The X. Oh,
What?
well, you just gave them money, but that's okay.
Huh.
Right.
Don't bows for multiple Marianne Marouk.
So maybe you should get up.
Okay. I want to see the chat though.
Yeah, yeah.